Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to my IELTS listening course. This is lesson 4, where we will be covering paraphrasing time, different expressions for directions, and both of those will be useful for labeling the diagram and labeling the map questions, which we will practice. Now, a little bit about me. I've already introduced myself in previous lessons, but just as a reminder, I am a professor and I do various duties related to the IELTS exam. On my walls right now, there are many sticky notes. I have almost no wall decorations, but I have a lot of sticky notes. I'm not the most organized person in the world. And right now I am living in Gyeongju, which is a city in South Korea. So if you ever come to Korea, let me know and we can have a beer. All right, and just as a reminder, we are on lesson 4, covering labeling the diagram and labeling the map. All right, so paraphrasing time. Let's start with a little bit about different ways that you can say time. For listening, this is really important, because the examiners will, or the passages will try to kind of mix up the different ways of saying the time, just to make sure that you know the different ways. Okay, so that's one way to make a simple question a little bit harder. For example, 6 o'clock, you could just say as 6, or 6 on the dot, or right at 6. For example, 6, this time here, there's a few different ways to say it. 6:05, that would be the most common way to say it. 5 after 6, and 5 past 6. This time here can be expressed as 6:10, 10 after 6, 10 past 6. This one here has a couple of other varieties. We have 6:15, of course, 15 after 6, and 15 past 6. However, you can also say quarter after 6, or quarter past 6. So be careful of that one, quarter. This one we can read as 6:30, half past 6, half 6. Notice the difference there between the U.S. Pronunciation, or the U.S. expression, and the UK expression. This time can be said as 6:40, 20 until 7, 20 till 7, 20 to 7. Okay, it can be written in several ways and pronounced in slightly different ways. 20 to 7, 20 till 7, 20 until 7. They sound fairly similar, so you should be able to catch the meaning anyway. This time would be 6:45, quarter to 7, quarter until 7, quarter till 7. And then a couple of special times. Noon is pronounced, 12 o'clock p.m. can be said as noon, and 12 o'clock a.m. can be said as midnight. Be careful with the a.m. and p.m. there. Notice that p.m. is the afternoon. a.m. is like the start of the morning, the middle of the morning, the middle of the night. But we consider it the start of the morning time is 12 a.m. Sounds a little strange, but just remember, 12 p.m. that should be afternoon, or that should be not afternoon, but that's the beginning of the afternoon. 12 a.m. is the beginning of the morning. And that's how we consider it, the beginning of the period. All right, let's do a little quiz. I'm going to read you 10 times, and I want you to write down the numbered times. So I'll use some different ways of saying it, and I'll test if you've got those down yet. So here we go. Number 1, quarter after 2. Number 2, 5 to 8. Number 3, noon. Number 4, 10 to 6. Number 5, 9:15. Number 6, 6:30. Number 7, 11:14. Number 8, 8:05. Number 9, 10:30. And number 10, 2:45. All right, let's test it out here, see how well you did. I'll just show you all the answers here. You can check. Now, if you struggled with any of these, rewind the video and check your answers. Because, yeah, you may need a little bit more review on some of these. Okay. Now, our next topic is expressions for locations. There are different expressions you should know in order to describe where something is, especially on a map. And for that reason, you need to know how to listen to these expressions. Okay, so not only for speaking, but for listening especially, during the describing a map section of the exam, these kind of expressions will be essential. So in front of, next to, opposite, beside, behind, to the left of, to the right of, in between, clockwise, anti-clockwise, or counterclockwise, beyond, past, before you get to, and then, of course, the cardinal directions, north, south, east, west, northwest, northeast, southwest, southeast. So if you're not familiar with any of those expressions, go look it up now, because these expressions are the most essential ones. All right, now we are going to do a little strategy here called check and predict that will help us with labeling the diagram. So first of all, check the title, then predict the word forms, okay, noun, adjective, etc., and predict the location language. Okay, so predict what kind of expressions you might hear next to, beyond, southeast, southwest. Often you can predict, at least with some degree of accuracy, at least what kind of expression you're going to hear. Whether it's kind of beyond or past or next to, or whether it's something like northeast or southwest or under or something like that. Usually you can have some idea of what they will say. And remember, as always with predictions, you're not necessarily trying to predict the correct answer. If that were the case, the exam would be too easy. There's usually no way to predict what the answer will be, but it's a way of actively preparing to listen. It's a way of preparing your brain to hear the right possibilities. Okay, and we also want to predict the topic language. So depending on the topic, there might be certain words that you can limit yourself to. For example, if you're doing a map of a campus, you might have words like the law building, the student center, those kind of words. All right, a couple other little tricks. Be careful for before and after traps. This is for labeling the diagram now. Watching out for before and after traps. We discussed traps in the multiple choice lesson. Okay, so if you need a review on traps, go back to lesson 3 and check that out. Use your finger to stay on track, stay on track. Use your finger to help you stay on track. Okay, so in other words, while you're listening, put your finger on the page and use your finger to help you. This is another way of making sure that you're listening actively. Keep your eye on the next answer too. Okay, make sure that you do not fall behind. Okay, always keep your eyes moving down the page. All right, let's give it a chance with some diagram practice. All right, let me change the slide here and we can get started. All right, so let's take a look at this example some dialogue or some diagram practice. In this case, it's kind of an interesting one. This is a shorter passage, and we have a box of options here. Okay, so some of the strategy that I mentioned in the kind of lecture portion or in our slides actually is done for us. Okay, we can see the title here, water heater, and we have a lot of the topic language already here. Indicator, switch, button, control, right? Warning, time, reset, on, off. All we have to do is listen for this stuff, right? And figure out where it is. The one thing we don't have is the location language. So we can predict that we're going to have words like next to, beside, above, below, under. Okay, words like that, that's going to be, those are going to be the words that we will have to listen out for and be really careful for. To the left of, to the right of, on the right side, on the left side. Okay, but it's all going to be those kind of localized directions, or relative directions. Nothing, northeast, northwest. Maybe a top corner, top left corner, top right corner, okay, bottom, middle, top middle, maybe? Okay, those kind of words, that's what needs to go through our minds as we kind of predict here. Okay? But yeah, the topic language we don't have to worry about. Okay, we just have to keep in our minds the location language. All right. Okay. Let's listen for it here. Okay, you guys listen to the dialogue, to the dialogue, and I will speak it for you. Okay, here we go. Hello. Hi, it's Laura Carlton here. We've just arrived at the holiday flat, but I can't get the hot water and heating to work. Oh, right. That's easy. Don't worry. In the upstairs cupboard, you'll find the water heater. You'll see 3 main controls on the left at the bottom of the heater. The first one, the round one on the far left, is the most important one for the heating and hot water. It's the main control switch. Make sure it's in the on position. The switch itself doesn't light up, but the little square below will be black if the switch is off. That's probably what's happened. It's got switched off by mistake. The middle one of these 3 controls, you'll see it's slightly larger than the first one, controls the radiators. If you feel cold while you're there and need the radiators on, this needs to be turned to maximum. The last of the 3 controls, the one on the right, is usually on about a number 4 setting, which for the water in the taps is usually quite hot enough. Below the heating controls, in the middle, is a small round plastic button. If there isn't enough water in the pipes, sometimes the heater goes out. If this happens, you'll need to press this button to reset the heater. Hold it in for about 5 seconds and the heater should come on again. Then there's a little square indicator under the 3rd knob that's a kind of alarm light. It'll flash if you need to reset the heater. Okay. Now you guys may want to rewind that if you need to hear it again, but if not, let's take a look at the script. All right. So here's the script. We'll take a look at the very beginning. It says you'll see 3 main controls on the left at the bottom of the heater. Okay, so we're looking down here, right? The first one, the round one on the far left. Okay, so we can see just based on what the picture is that must be here, number 11, right? Is the most important one for the heating and hot water. It's the main control switch. Okay, so we hear the word switch. Okay, we can assume that must be B. And then later it says make sure it's in the on position. Okay, so on, off. So number 11 must be B. Now don't panic here because there's a long period where there's no answers. Okay, notice all of this empty dialogue that isn't actually doing anything. Okay, it says the middle one of these controls controls the radiators, central heating radiators. Okay, The last of the controls, the one on the right, controls for the taps, right? For the water in the taps is usually quite hot enough. And then down here we have numbers 12 and 13. Below the heating controls in the middle, okay, there we go, number 12, is a small round plastic button. If there isn't enough water in the pipes, sometimes the heater goes out. If this happens, you'll need to press this button to reset the heater. Okay, so we know button, we can guess it's C, and then we hear the word reset, which confirms it. Okay, so the word button is a big key there. Number 12 should be C. Notice, by the way, this strategy is sometimes used by examiners, okay, when they kind of use a little bit of distance, right? So they mention the button, then they say something else, and then they tell you what it is. You have to be a little bit patient there. That's one strategy that the writers will use. In 13, there's a little square indicator under the third knob that's a kind of alarm light. Okay, and this one is the only one that really uses some paraphrasing. Notice E, alarm light, warning indicator. Alarm, warning, light, indicator. All right, so that number 13, I think, is the only one that uses any kind of paraphrasing in here. All the rest of them match up perfectly with what we have here. Okay. All right, well, let's look next at some strategy for how to solve the map type problems. All right, let's talk next about labeling the map. Strategy, checking the style. Okay, there are two types of map styles. Tours and not tours. Okay, some maps are going to lead you on a tour of the environment. Some maps are just going to describe, the speaker will just describe a map. It's not about giving you a tour, it's just about telling you about the map. So a tour style, just keep in mind that the information comes in a logical order. Okay, so you're going to go in a clockwise direction or a counterclockwise direction, most likely. So you can that should be a little bit easier for you. You can predict what's coming next. It's usually clockwise. Okay, I'd say at least 75% of the time it is clockwise. Listening skills that you can use here. First of all, listen for individual words or phrases. Okay, you're listening for just one word, two words at a time. Also, watching out for traps. Okay, be careful. Before traps and after traps, just like in the multiple choice section. The not tour type or style of map, the information may be scattered around. Okay, so they're just choosing locations randomly around the map. The answers are usually more predictable. So this is a way of balancing the difficulty. There's no logical order, but the answers are a little easier. In this case, you want to listen for location words. Remember, the answers are scattered, or the information is scattered around the map. So they're going to have to tell you northwest corner, next to the library. They're going to have to give you more location words. Right? And as always, watch out for those traps. So let's do a little map practice. I'll change the slide and we can take a look. All right, now if we look at this example, our first thing that we want to do with the map is to figure out, is this a tour style or a non-tour style? All right. And one thing that we notice right away is this X here. You are here. Right? That gives us a clear indication that we are looking at a tour style map. Okay, we're probably going to start here and we might go around in this kind of order. Okay, in a kind of clockwise order. Okay, that's what I would predict. Okay, we'll see if we're correct about that. We can also check out the answers here. Okay, 15 scarecrow, 16 maze, 17 cafe, black barn, covered picnic area, fitty house. All right, and all we're going to need there is just the letters, right, for each one. Okay, so knowing that, we probably won't have a completely clockwise path, because then it would be very easy to fill in these answers. Okay, but we need to listen for basically what is the path that we're taking here. But you can notice this shouldn't be that hard. We're not going to go from D to I to B to H. That would be illogical. Okay, we're probably going to follow some kind of normal path. Okay, for example, if we go to G first, then we need to check, are we going to H next or E next? Or maybe we'll skip both of them and go to D. We need to pay attention for that. After D, maybe we'll cross the fish pool. Are we going to stop at C or go all the way to B? Or maybe B first and then C after. But there should be some predictability in this. It's not just going to be random order. That's the key with the tour style. Okay? All right, so knowing that, we should be ready to go. I'm going to read the script for you, and I want you to try to fill in the answers. Okay. Now, let me give you some idea of the layout of the farm. The building where you bought your tickets is the new barn, immediately to your right, and we're now at the beginning of the main path to the farmland. And of course, the car park is on your left. The scarecrow you can see in the car park in the corner, beside the main path, is a traditional figure for keeping the birds away from crops. But our scarecrow is a permanent sculpture. It's taller than a human being, so you can see it from quite a distance. If you look ahead of you, you'll see a maze. It's opposite the new barn, beside the side path that branches off to the right, just over there. The maze is made out of hedges, which are too tall for young children to see over them, but it's quite small, so you can't get lost in it. Now, can you see the bridge crossing the fish pool further up on the main path? If you want to go to the cafe, go towards the bridge and turn right just before it. Walk along the side path, and the cafe is on the first bend that you come to. The building was originally the schoolhouse, and it's well over 100 years old. As you may know, we run skills workshops here, where you can learn traditional crafts like woodwork and basket making. You can see examples of the work and talk to someone about the courses in the black barn. If you take the side path to the right here, just by the new barn, you'll come to the black barn just where the first path bends. Now, I mustn't forget to tell you about picnicking, as I can see some of you have brought your lunch with you. You can picnic in the field, though do clear up behind you, of course. Or, if you'd prefer a covered picnic area, there's one near the farmyard. Just after you cross the bridge, there's a covered picnic spot on the right. And the last thing to mention is Fitty House itself. From here, you can cross the bridge, then walk along the footpath through the field to the left of the farmyard. That goes to the house, and it'll give you a lovely view of it. It's certainly worth a few photographs, but as it's a private home, I'm afraid you can't go inside. Right, well, if you're all ready, we'll set off on our tour of the farm. All right then, now let's take a look at our script and see how well you did. Okay, so let's see, starting with the beginning. It says, the building where you bought your tickets is the new barn. That's marked on our map already. Okay, immediately to your right. And now we're at the beginning of the main path to the farmland. And of course, the car park is on your left. Okay, so now we are oriented. We're facing this way. Okay, we're walking toward the farmland. Okay, the scarecrow you can see in the car park in the corner beside the main path. Okay, so in the car park, in the corner. So number 15 should be F. Should be a fairly easy one. There's two numbers in the car park, or two letters. So you just have to hear for which one. In the car park, in the corner. F. And they give you an extra clue beside the main path. Okay, so they give you 2 clues there. That one should be pretty easy. If you look ahead of you, you'll see a maze. It is opposite the new barn, beside the side path that branches off to the right over there. Opposite the new barn. Okay, again, that should be fairly simple, right? If you look ahead of you, you'll see the maze. It is opposite the new barn. All right. And beside the side path. Okay, so we can see it must be right here, G. Okay, so G is the answer for number 16. Again, I think a fairly easy one. Okay, the only confusing thing there is perhaps that side path, it's a little unclear if this is the side path or if this whole bend is the side path. And in our case, it is the whole bend. So that could be slightly confusing. All right, but just listen for that opposite the new barn. That should make it very clear. All right. So moving on to cafe. If you want to, this is where the writer of the exam got a little tricky. It says, now, can you see the bridge crossing the fish pool? Can you see the bridge crossing the fish pool? They did not tell us walk across the fish pool. That's the key. They said, can you see the bridge? Yes? Okay. If you want to go to the cafe, go towards the bridge and turn right just before it. Walk along the side path and the cafe is on the first bend that you come to. The answer is D. All right, so that's a bit of a tricky one. You got to listen close for that. Are we going across or not? Right, before you get to the bridge. Okay, so number 17, D. Now 18. Let's see. If you take the side path to the right here, just by the new barn, okay? Side path to the right here, just by the new barn. You'll come to the black barn just where the first path bends. Should be H right there, right? Nothing complicated there, just got to listen closely. So black barn is H. All right, now picnicking. Or if you'd prefer a covered picnic area, there's one near the farmyard. Okay, notice the farmyard, so we're looking at B, C, or A. One of these 3, near the farmyard. Just after you cross the bridge. Just after you cross the bridge, there's a covered picnic spot on the right. C. Just after you cross the bridge. And the last thing to mention, so number 19 is C. The last thing to mention is Fitty House itself. From here you can cross the bridge. So again, I'll listen there from here, right? Every one of these was beginning here. From here you can cross the bridge, then walk along the footpath through the field to the left of the farmyard. Walk along the footpath to the field. Our answer is going to be A. Okay? So nothing overly complicated there. Almost, well, in fact, every map is going to be in section 2. So the language is not going to be too complex. It's just a matter of negotiating a couple of tricky points. Sometimes a tour will follow a kind of path. In this case, our tour began here, and each time it started here. So if you want to go to the scarecrow, there it is. If you want to go to the maze, there it is. Back to the beginning. Right? If you want to go to the farmhouse or the Fitty House, go across the bridge, up here, and A. All right, so that's one element of this map that was a little bit complicated or a little bit tricky compared to some other maps that you might find. All right, but just listen close and keep that in mind with a tour. You're going to kind of follow a course, or, like this case, you might start here and go to each place individually from the same origin spot. Okay, so keep practicing your maps, and remember to always check first the style, whether it's a tour style or a non-tour style. All right, stay tuned next time. Lesson 5 is coming next.